Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Blockbusting. I am your host, Jay Light. Joining me in the Comedy Store basement today, Grace Baldridge.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you. Grace and I go way back. Grace and I
Yeah.
went to college together. She and I met, what was it, my senior year?
Yeah, your senior year, my junior year, Elon University, probably 2012.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know any times.
I would have been 17.
2011.
Yeah, something.
Because I graduated 2012.
Yeah.
It was in the fall.
Yeah, 2011.
Grace and I did some stand-up together, and Grace is now a very successful host of internet things.
Yeah, sure.
You got yourself a little millennial following there.
I was gonna say, I wish that we had recorded some of those sets that we did back at Elon. I don't wish that we had them recorded. I'm sure your sets are recorded, mine are not, but you gave me, the first time we ever did stand-up together, you handed me a cool 20 minutes.
Yep.
You were like, can you do a hot 20 for this crowd of fraternity and sorority folk that I was unfamiliar with?
And I actually did have tape of that, but I did not set the audio up properly, and it's just an hour of video with no audio.
Burn it.
Terrible. I already did. I got rid of that.
Good.
Grace and I also used to be roommates for a little bit of background context.
About 2 years we
Just
were
for fun.
roommates.
2 years now.
Two wonderful years.
Grace is engaged to a lovely young lady, and they are living in relative one-house splendor instead of in an apartment with a wild landlord. Oh boy.
The most wild. That could be a whole other podcast. My Wild Landlord with Jay Light.
That sounds like if I get that MTV hosting job that I've always wanted.
Yeah.
That's my first show.
Yeah.
My super shitty landlord.
Yeah.
Coming this fall. She was a teen mom, and now okay. Anyway.
Coming this fall and to your door without notice.
It's my super shitty landlord.
Yeah.
Shitty landlord. Okay. Here we go. Let's get right into it, I think. It's been a hot weekend at the box office, coming up on Thanksgiving. Big premiere was supposed to happen for Justice League, but this is coming to us courtesy of Box Office Mojo. Justice League stumbles in domestic debut as Wonder delivers wondrous results. So, Justice League, the big tentpole movie that's supposed to come out this weekend, it was supposed to get over $100 million, getting somewhere around $125 million theatrically just in America. Grace, I would like you to give me a guess of how much money you think it made this weekend.
Oh, yikes. Damn. Okay. I know that it was supposed to make $100 million. I remember hearing those figures that's what it really needed to do. I'm gonna guess that it brought in $70 million.
Not that bad. It wasn't that anemic of a showing. It brought in 96.
That's basically it, right?
But close. That's the thing. $100 is what it needed to get. It needed to get $100 million. 96.6 is not cutting it.
Don't you feel like every DC rollout that they've had is, they always say, this is the movie that's going to set the DC universe correct. Like, this is the one that's going to do it. Suicide Squad sets it right. It's, Batman versus Superman. This is the one. And it's never the one.
Justice League is the lowest debuting DC universe movie.
Yeah.
In the entire new canon of DC Universe movies.
Oh, God.
Lowest debut.
I told you that I thought I saw Ben Affleck driving through my neighborhood the other day.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if my neighborhood would be the sort of area that you'd take a drive when you're thinking about things. So that maybe he knew then when I saw him, because it was just a couple days ago.
I think he was probably driving around, because we live in a very heavily Russian-populated neighborhood, so he's probably driving around all these businesses thinking, God, I got to pay these people back for all the gambles I took early on in my career. He's not making points off of this movie. This movie, first week out, 96.6 million. It's not
bad.
It's not bad, but also it's bad. That's the weird kind of world that we live in now with superhero blockbusters, is that a $96 million debut can be looked at as below expectations.
For these characters, yes. You put Batman in a movie, you have Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was such a huge success for them, and then this is still the showing. it is underwhelming,
Well,
I would say.
especially given there was another superhero movie that just came out a couple weeks ago in Thor Ragnarok, and
Yes.
that in its first weekend grossed $122 million.
Mm-hmm.
So Justice League is supposed to be, oh, everybody wants to come see this. It's supposed to be this big culmination,
It's
and it's just not that.
It's their Avengers, and Avengers was such a huge
Avengers
hit.
was a huge success.
Yeah, huge success for Marvel. So I think DC was sort of banking on that, and they thought that we'll get that with Justice League. Like, oh, you don't want to see Batman? What about all Batman? What about Cyborg? What about Flash? What about Aquaman? Probably Superman, even though they don't really say it, but probably he's in it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he's in it.
I'm guessing he's probably in it.
They can't put him in the preview, but sure. And then Wonder Woman again. Like I'll probably go see it just for Wonder Woman because I think Gal Gadot is just so charming and charismatic on screen.
I just don't really. I mean, I've said this on this podcast before. I have a hard stance that superhero movies aren't really my bag. I did see Thor Ragnarok. I liked it.
I heard it was funny.
It is. It's very funny. It's well made, bright colors, beautiful visuals, well acted.
Tessa Thompson
does a great job as the Valkyrie.
Yeah.
But Justice League just doesn't really spark any interest, It's not really wetting my whistle.
It sort of lost its fire, I think.
Yeah. Well, it didn't have fire to begin with. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's just sort of like someone was trying to light a campfire, and when it doesn't really light, but it's like the paper's on fire, so you're like, oh, this is going to be it, this is going to be good, it's going to light this time, and then it doesn't. I feel like that's the metaphor for the DC universe.
And now DC fans have all these hot dogs that are just sitting around uncooked. They're going to go bad. They're not going to get any sustenance. They're going to have to eat uncooked marshmallows. Who wants that?
Nobody.
You're going to get attacked by bears overnight. God. You know what came in at number 2 this week is another debut at the box office. Wonder.
Yeah.
The movie about a boy with a fucked up face. And that came in at $27 million.
That's with Julia Roberts, Owen Wilson, and
little boy Jacob Tremblay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's Room.
And that is the extent that I know or have even seen about that movie.
It's a movie about a kid who's got facial deformities. It's a real tearjerker and heartwarmer.
So you saw it?
No, I've seen trailers for it. I have no desire to see a heartwarming family film about a boy whose face is all jacked up and how he can overcome having a jacked up face. I have no desire to see that movie.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder.
It's
what it's about and how I.
It's one of those movies that seems like somewhere along the development line, it got bumped up from being a Lifetime original movie into being, you know what? Julia Roberts says she's interested in this now. I bet we can finagle this into being a full studio release.
There was a movie kind of similar to that a while back with the guy that was supposed to play Marty McFly before Michael J. Fox, whose name I'm blanking on, but did at some point in time play a teacher on a show where Evan Rachel Wood and Misha Barton kind of had a crush on each other. So the only reason why I know this is because every sort of lesbian storyline I am required to know about. But this actor,
Eric Stoltz was
in a movie. Yeah, that guy. Eric Stoltz was in a movie when he was younger about, I guess, a kid with a deformity as well. And like, if you say that that's what Wonder is about, my thing is like, oh, so it's like that movie with the professor from the show where Misha Barton and Evan Rachel Wood kissed once. That's it. That's all. That's the end of thought process.
Wonder. I wonder who wants to see that movie. Am I right? Oh God.
The answer is my parents and your parents.
My parents actually,
and probably us. We should go see this movie, this heartwarming movie. We're so cynical. I don't know what it's about, but if it makes us more compassionate and empathetic, then God damn it, Jay, that's what we need in this world.
I guess we do need compassion and empathy. That's, you know what? It's not a bad move. Compassion and empathy do okay at the box office if you pick the right crowd. That trailer looked empathetic as fuck. There's people laughing and smiling and a kid wearing a astronaut's helmet. That's adorable.
Yeah.
This is a movie that I would probably appreciate more if I had kids that I could take to the movie and say, here, you got to treat everybody like this, even the kids who look funny, like superstar Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah, he is a superstar.
He is a superstar. He did great in Room.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine he's probably really great in this. But I have, again, no desire to see this movie.
It might be one of those movies that you'll see on an airplane because you're like, oh, like, I had this conversation with Jay about this movie. It did so well at the box office. People were raving about it. Then you're on an airplane and it says Wonder, and you're like, all right, well,
I don't really like watching sad movies on airplanes.
That's exclusively what I watch. I regularly cry on airplanes.
You know, I actually read a study a while ago that says it's easier for people to cry at movies on airplanes.
I sobbed during Creed. Like, which is not like a very sad movie. I mean, it's emotional for sure. It's, you know, underdog triumph story for sure. But I like wept in Creed. Tessa Thompson, Michael B. Jordan.
Tessa Thompson's in Creed too?
She is the heart and soul of that movie, I feel. That's how I got like that. Well, actually, it was Dear White People. I really liked Tessa Thompson in that. But then when she was in Creed as well, then and then on that HBO show, the name of it is Anthony Hopkins and
Westworld.
Westworld. I knew it began with a W. Westworld. I was just doing the motion of a puppeteer because I was hoping you would understand what that meant.
It looked like you were doing W's with your hands, but upside down. So
Westworld.
Westworld. That's what you meant.
Yep.
Westworld, baby. Let's keep on moving. We have only one other new entrant into the box office this weekend, sliding in at number 6. Before that, Thor Ragnarok drops to number 3. Daddy's Home 2 drops to number 4. Mordor on the Orient Express.
It's a crossover with Lord of the Rings.
Mordor
goes to the Orient Express.
One does not simply walk into Murder on the Orient Express. Murder on the Orient Express, number 5. And then our new entrant, final one, a movie I did not even realize existed. I had to look up after I saw this. The Star.
I know about this.
It's the animated retelling of the Jesus story, but it's from the animal's perspective.
But yeah, it's the Jesus story. But this time, there's animals.
Whoa, the animals are all wacky.
Yeah.
So this has a very high-profile voice cast, made by a very high-profile studio. This isn't even one of those overtly Christian movie studios, like the kind that Kirk Cameron makes all his movies from. You know, the God's Not Dead and God's Not Dead 2.
That's all that I watch when I'm stoned. There's a movie called Christian Mingle starring Gretchen Wieners.
Oh, yeah.
Just recommendations for your listeners.
I have heard that. But The Star is a as far as high-profile movies go, it's made by Sony, the creators of the Ice Age franchise. And it has, like, Kristen Chenoweth is in it, and that's the biggest name that I can remember. And it's got donkeys, and it's about Jesus.
Well, if Kristen Chenoweth's in it, I think she is so brilliant. I would probably watch it, but I'll watch it when it's on Netflix. Again, probably while stoned. Like that's the only way I think I could. A movie about talking animals, it's made for that. It's made for children or stoners.
Probably just like the next movie that is on this list, number 7, A Bad Mom's Christmas. Another movie that you'll wind up watching stoned on Netflix.
Yeah, that's probably right.
That's a movie that's going to get some heavy, heavy airplay during 25 Days of Christmas in edited version.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Haven't seen it, but I believe it. Because that's the sort of movie that I can imagine my mom being like, I love Mila Kunis. I can't wait to watch this one. And oh my God, is that Christina Applegate? Or isn't Christina Applegate in it too?
I think she is. It's all about mothers, and this one's about mothers and daughters
Kristen
too.
Bell.
And
Wasn't Kristen Bell? Wasn't she Elsa? Like, I can just see my mom loving that movie.
I bet she would. Your mom...
Susan Sarandon. Oh, she is so good. Susan Sarandon is really good.
Your mom would definitely only watch an edited version of Bad Mom's Christmas, though. She wouldn't go out and see the theatrical version. She wants to see the TV clean.
Exactly.
I have Lady Bird coming in at number 8, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri coming in at number 9. Now, these are limited release movies still. Lady Bird's only at 238 movie theaters. 3 Billboards is only at 53 movie theaters. But... both cracking into the top 10, which is really impressive.
Lady Bird, I predict, is going to blow up. And if it does, you got to credit me on your podcast next time. Because I have heard...
I'll just credit you now.
Sure, if it blows up. If it does. But I predict that it will.
Grace's hot prediction.
Yeah, because everyone that I've talked to that has seen it has been like, I am a changed person. Lady Bird moved me. And I've seen, like, Facebook statuses about it, and that's usually when you know that a movie catches fire, because I remember with Moonlight last year, seeing sort of the same reaction. Obviously, they're, like, 2 totally different pictures, but I just remember that you have those, like, you need that sort of cult fan base when a movie gets its limited release in order to cross over to a wide release.
Right, and Lady Bird is getting wide release this weekend.
Yeah, you need the word-of-mouth sort of buzz, so we'll see how it does.
I think... Lady Bird and 3 Billboards are both going to do very well once they hit wide release, because they have that kind of well, Lady Bird certainly has strong indie cred because
Mhm.
it's directed by Greta Gerwig, written by Greta Gerwig, who's an indie darling anyway, and it's got a very strong slate of reviews so far. It's got some awards buzz coming its way. And
Mhm.
then same with Three Billboards. Three Billboards also has the benefit of being directed and written by Martin McDonagh, who is another sort of indie auteur who's gotten some really good heat from Seven Psychopaths and In Bruges. Now, I've heard for sure that Three Billboards is already getting some Best Picture kind of awards heat because it tackles a lot of issues relevant to now, as far as things like police brutality, botched investigations, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if these two movies can both really continue to crack into the mainstream. And it seems like they already are. I mean, they're breaking into the top 10 while still in limited release. That's impressive for a limited release movie, especially given that last week Three Billboards was only in 3 theaters and Lady Bird
Wow.
was only in 39 theaters.
Holy
Lady Bird was in the
shit.
top 10 last week at only 39 theaters. People are clamoring to see these movies.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I have to close out with the last vestiges of Halloween movies still in theaters, which is Jigsaw. For some reason, clinging to life. 10th place.
It's kind of sweet, you know what I mean? Like,
1.7.
oh, Jigsaw, you're still in there.
I guess.
You know what I mean?
You know, how Jigsaw is probably the villain. I can see why this is carrying on into the the winter season, because Jigsaw is the movie villain that looks the most like a candy cane.
Or also like the Target dog.
True.
Kind of a mix of both.
A Target dog is an iconic Christmas.
Yeah.
I could see a Target dog Christmas special.
Or a Halloween special.
No, David S. Pumpkins already claimed Halloween special status.
I think it's Target dog. Rabies can happen to anyone.
I guess so. Oh, no. Oh, God.
It's dark. It's Cujo.
That's a real dark. It's Cujo for Target. Cujo 2.
Just a rabid dog in a Target, and you're trapped in there. Come on, I mean, the movie writes itself.
It does write itself. Grace, I think you got a hot new new holiday hit on your hands. Let's go ahead and talk about some movie news coming out this week. The biggest, well, maybe not the biggest news story, but one of the most interesting news stories, I think. This is coming to us courtesy of Slash Film. So, award season is starting to have heavy discussion. We had the Gotham Awards already happen a little while ago, and Golden Globe nominations are starting to sort of trickle in as far as predictions go. Now, just found out this week, Get Out could be nominated as a comedy at the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Now, this has apparently been very, very. I kind of get it, given the fact that Jordan Peele is the director, and they only know him from Key and Peele and from comedy works that he has done. And it will probably wind up winning Best Comedy. I can't think of anything else that might go up against it. Maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe Three Billboards will get classified as a comedy. Maybe Lady Bird will get classified as a comedy because they're both kind of quirky, and Martin McDonagh is a really funny writer, and Lady Bird is clearly like the token quirky lady movie that's going to get nominated for best comedy at the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Get Out getting nominated for Best Comedy, I think, well, and it being in the discussion for Best Comedy, really fucking weird.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things at play. One being that they want it to win, and they think that they have the best chance in the comedy category. But the second thing, and Jordan Peele sort of pointed this out himself, I believe in a Twitter thread, or maybe he released a statement, sort of saying that, if it's a comedy, let's just make sure, like, what are people laughing at? Because obviously Get Out deals with very real social issues. It comments on the current climate and racial tension in the country. Like, there's nothing funny about that, but like it is a well-written movie from a comedic mind, and it has incredibly funny elements to it.
Oh, yeah.
The casting is,
the last scene of the whole movie is a gigantic laugh.
Or just like little
a big
things,
cathartic laugh.
Just her. I mean, I'm just imagining I keep saying Allison Williams instead of. But I always confuse Vanessa Williams and Allison Williams, which are just hilarious in my brain that they're so different. Anyway, that scene of her with the Cheerios eating cereal in bed with the buttoned up shirt, just it's such a hilarious image and weird image to me, but also incredibly powerful. And I read some analysis of the movie that was saying that she separates the Fruit Loops from the milk because it's like something that has color from something that is milky. I mean, there's so it's at once a funny image, but then when you just dive beneath the surface, it is very powerful.
When you go into the sunken place, as it were.
Yeah. So it's if it's gonna be nominated as a comedy, then it damn sure should win, because it was, I think, I would say it is the most talked about movie of the year. It got people to go to the theaters to have uncomfortable, necessary discussions with their people in their lives.
In a year where politics reigned the American consciousness, I think that Get Out is definitely the most important movie of the year.
Yeah.
Because it took a very, very prominent political issue and made it palatable and kept it funny while also still finding ways to scare the shit out of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that as long as people are just sort of not saying that it's a comedy in a reductive way, like, it's just a comedy, I think that's sort of what it seems like Jordan Peele does not want his movie to be received as.
Right.
And he
especially because he said in his tweet, Get Out is a documentary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think if you approach it in a reductive way, that is the wrong way to look at this. And what I hope is that it gets nominated and it wins, and then Jordan Peele gives an amazing acceptance speech.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. This is going to be a great acceptance speech season. I think Jordan Peele's are going to blow everybody else's out of the water.
I agree. And also credit to him for creating a movie that crossed so many genres, because it was probably my favorite horror movie of the year as well.
It was, right now, it's sitting on my top 10 movies of the year list at number 2.
What's your number 1 right now?
Dunkirk.
Okay.
I think Dunkirk is a hair better than Get Out, but Get Out is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
I have rarely had an experience actually watching a movie in the theater the way I did when I was seeing Get Out. Yeah. I saw it by myself in a full theater, and I felt like I was part of a crazy experience because of the way everybody was acting in the theater.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I think we even talked about this, because it's sort of like a collaborative viewing experience, the likes of which I hadn't had from going to see a movie in a long time.
Yeah.
Where you sort of feel like you went on this ride with everyone in the theater. No one was on their phones. Mm-hmm. Everyone was just engrossed, and you had just to hear how everyone was reacting to stuff, whether they were scared or what they thought was funny and what some people didn't think was funny. Like, it would elicit groans from some people and laughs from others. I thought that was incredibly powerful, and that's what you want from a movie. You want an active viewer and an active viewership, and everyone talked about this movie after they saw it. So that's the real credit of Get Out. And
I think people will certainly continue to talk about it as award season rolls through.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's cover one little lighthearted story. Christian Bale is going through another movie transition right now, unrecognizable after transformation for Dick Cheney role. This is coming to us courtesy of Entertainment Weekly. Now, have you seen the picture?
I have seen it. It's weird.
He looks... man. He looks like Vincent D'Onofrio in... what's that movie? In Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like that eagle puppet from the Muppets.
Sam the Eagle?
He looks like Sam the Eagle.
Yeah,
he looks like Sam the Eagle if he got his skin bleached.
He looks like if Sam the Eagle and Humpty Dumpty had a baby that was angry, and it was Christian Bale. Like, that's because he looks kind of like an egg. He's kind of like ovular.
Yeah, he is kind of an egg for this movie.
Looks like an egg because it's no hair.
He says that his method of putting on pounds is to eat a lot of pie.
That's, fair.
It's a good idea.
That's a way to do it. Eat some pie. You know what always has impressed me about Christian Bale is I know his physical transformations are notable, but his vocal transformations for the number of different roles that he's had are always really like comprehensive. I guess that's kind of a strange word to use, but it's just all encompassing. Like his Batman voice was insane, and like he just absolutely committed to it. His voice in The Fighter was a like it's on top of just learning a dialect or an accent, he is also learning how he like throws his voice. And for Dick Cheney, who had this bizarre penguin voice,
and now he looks like a bizarre penguin. He pulled it off.
And like, because the only thing that I can think of like Dick Cheney is I just imagine him saying like, "Yeah, see," like that's what I imagine him.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my buddies out in the woods, shoot him in the face. Don't you know? No. Oh, why don't we go off on why don't you go and investigate the Saudis and give them what for?
What is? He's like a 1920s guy in Minnesota. See, like.
I gotta go run this rum over course of the I gotta get the choo-choos.
Jay and I don't do impressions. We don't. It's not part of.
No, it's not really part of our.
It's not part of.
You do. Well, no, you do an impression of your mom. That's part of your.
I can do my family members. I can do my brother. I can do my mom.
I can't do any impressions of any of my family members. They all sound. Anytime I do a voice of one of my family members in my act, which is really only just my mom at this point, it legitimately sounds nothing like her. Like, my mom in my comedy act has become sort of this angry, screaming banshee of a woman, and that's not the way she is in real life.
She's really sweet.
She's really nice, and she's just a sweet lady, but it's just kind of the way like my mom is in the act, and my mom is very shrill and very just like and kind of like a buzzard, just kind of screechy. That's not the way mom is in real life. If you ever met my mom and you'd only seen a version of my mom in my stand-up, oh boy, you're in for a big surprise.
Yeah, very big surprise.
Very big surprise. Yeah. Speaking of big surprises, this isn't really a surprise at this point, given that we are currently in week 6 of the Hollywood sexual assault scandal. Maybe even longer than that, huh?
I think the Harvey Weinstein piece came out October, I think, or mid-October, like something in the October 20-something, I believe.
Well, I tell you what, it feels like it's been forever, and the waking nightmare is never going to stop. This week in Hollywood Rapists.
Oh, God.
Russell Simmons and Brett Ratner accused of sexual misconduct against a then 17-year-old woman. Together. Now, this article came out today. My version's from the AV Club. Now, we've had a couple of high-profile people come out this week. We had Sylvester Stallone allegations resurface this week. Mm-hmm. We had Al Franken, who's not really a movie star, unless you count It's Pat, a great starring role. And I think that's basically. I mean, I'm sure we've had a couple other ones. There's the Lena Dunham thing, but that's not really in the world of movies. Brett Ratner's sort of been on the fringes of this for a little bit. He's had a bunch of allegations come out against him so far over the course of this scandal. This is the first big one against Russell Simmons. So what happened was Def Jam founder Russell Simmons and director/producer Brett Ratner have both been accused of sexual misconduct in connection with an incident from 1991. When a 17-year-old woman accused Russell Simmons of sexually assaulting her while Ratner stood by and watched. The LA Times reported this morning on the account of model Carrie Clausen-Kaligi, who says she met the two men at a casting call and went to dinner with them before going back to Simmons' apartment. There, Simmons allegedly made several aggressive sexual advances towards Kaligi, tearing her to clothes, eventually coercing her to perform oral sex. Meanwhile, Ratner just watched. I looked over at Brett and said, "Help me," and I'll never forget the look on his face. In that moment, the realization fell on me that they were in it together. So, there has been sort of this backlash that has brewed against Russell Simmons this week because he was named by Terry Crews and in a tweet this week where Terry Crews has been in the news because he is filing a police report
against Adam Bennett.
Against Adam Bennett. And Russell Simmons said, "Hey, you should help him get a job back and let it go," essentially.
Wait, what?
Yeah. This is a screen-capped email from Terry Crews, from Terry Crews' Twitter feed, where Russell Simmons is like, "It's not that bad." Now, this allegation, Brett Ratner, like I mentioned, already having some allegations of his own. Russell Simmons, the first time that he has been caught up and named in this current wave of scandals. Now, there have been rumblings about both these guys for a long time. Apparently, there's another story that is cropping up as I was doing my research for this week's episode, involving an incident in 1994 involving Russell Simmons, So we're now seeing another sort of not just not just somebody who's done a couple of things, who has had some niche things, sort of like with James Toback, where he had some niche movies and he was sort of a cult movie director. Brett Ratner's doing some big studio type of tentpoles involving himself in a lot of TV projects. This is a Harvey Weinstein level of I guess where you are in the industry, upper echelon kind of position. Russell Simmons has his fingers in a lot of different pies, just the way Harvey Weinstein did. And I saw your face as soon as I said fingers in a lot of pies, and you know what? The analogy still sticks. Now, I am going to guess, are going to be a lot more allegations coming against Russell Simmons this week.
Wow.
I think this is going to be his time in the spotlight, as it were. Because when a name this big gets named, I guarantee that there's going to be more.
I think there's this idea that certain individuals in entertainment are untouchable. And you can't go after Harvey Weinstein. He's too powerful. You couldn't bring him down. No way. And then when you see that the New York Times has done their due diligence to produce enough evidence against him, then it's sort of, then we saw a number of other Harvey Weinstein accusers come forward and say, actually, I had a really similar experience. I was very fearful. I didn't come forward for these number of years. Now, seeing that public opinion is swayed and that people will believe me and that I have some power where you feel so incredibly powerless, I've decided to come forward. So it will be interesting to see if that is sort of the same turn of events that befalls Russell Simmons. If people for many, many years felt this guy is too powerful, he's too big to fail. Like, he will never fail. He has the power. I am powerless. No one will believe me. What's the point? I'm just gonna my life will be ruined. And now we'll see what the reaction is now that people have started to come forward, if others come forward with their own experiences with him.
Right. Now, this is another interesting thing to me, and something that I've kind of been talking about the past couple weeks has been, when is the Bryan Singer story going to drop?
I've been wondering too.
And here's what's happening. I think that on the political side of things, this obviously has nothing to do with movies. The Roy Moore accusations and allegations all involve underage women. The Sylvester Stallone story from earlier this week involved an underage girl. This story and the other story that I mentioned from 1994 also both involve underage girls.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see this kind of line be crossed in the kinds of stories that are being reported, where it's edging towards, I think, this pedophilia scandal that has been bubbling for years against people like Bryan Singer is going to finally boil over. Because it is becoming very obvious now that men in Hollywood in positions of power not only have an immense disregard for women in general, they also have a pretty fucking immense disregard for age of those women.
Mm-hmm.
If it means they can get their rocks off. What do you think?
I agree. I think that there has been so much depravity in Hollywood for so long. It was such a toxic culture. And now it's finally being cleansed, and we're going to start having some really difficult but necessary. I like how Sarah Silverman says, if it's mentionable, it's manageable. Conversations about the level of abuse. And it does seem as though that absolutely scaled towards pedophilia and the abuse of children in the industry. I'm reminded of Corey Feldman has been saying this for years and years and years. And
Yep.
While he has been hesitant to name names or kind of delve into more
Right.
details about that, he is I mean, and he's not alone as well. I know that Elijah Wood also came out many years back. There are a number of stars that started off very young in Hollywood that have said, yeah, there are predators that prey on children, but
the allegations against Charlie Sheen name him as a predator of children with Corey Haim.
But the problem is that it wasn't in a climate yet, unfortunately, for any of these people to be believed. I mean, look, Corey Feldman's a weird dude for sure. Look into Corey's Angels and that Vice piece that they released. He's a strange guy.
Watch that Today Show video where he decides that he wants to be an EDM vocalist.
Oh, that's not even the first. He was on the Howard Stern show years back. But look, here's the thing. But this is also a guy that was a victim of years and years of systemic child abuse in the industry. And so, I mean, who knows what that would do to someone? But for years and years and years, it was sort of like he was, and a lot of these stars were screaming into the void because public opinion hadn't swayed until, for whatever reason, the Harvey Weinstein piece just opened up these floodgates. But it certainly wasn't the first time that we'd heard about this, that we'd heard about people abusing their positions of power for sexual purposes. It's just the first time that people were willing to listen and put in the work. I think that people were sort of hearing them, but they weren't listening, and they didn't want to put in the work. And what that would mean probably means that people like Kevin Spacey and Brett Ratner and these huge players are going to go down. And a lot of those big studios were like, well, if public opinion hasn't swayed yet, I guess we don't have to deal with this quite yet.
Right.
They're like, well, it's a big ticket for us. It's a lot of money for us. Let's just, weigh our options here. And a lot of people will have to own up to their own culpability in the sense that they weighed their options and they decided to side with money.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the reckoning is just beginning. That is becoming more and more evident every week that this story continues to elapse.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we were first starting to cover this story, I can't say we because it's because I'm not even a journalist. I'm a stand-up comic recording out of the basement of a comedy club where there is a table of skulls. A jar of skulls on the table that we're recording this podcast on.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
That's pretty cool. Halloween leftovers. We really getting the season around these parts.
Nice.
This was something that I think people. One of my guests and I, we were both like, we got to make sure that this story kind of stays alive, and people maybe are afraid that it's going to fall by the wayside. It's not that it's going to fall by the wayside. This story is going to balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And get so big that it is going to blow everybody's mind, the names that are going to get caught up in this. Now, I think that the focus should be the most on the most egregious names and the most egregious cases of abuse. And at this point, I think that the more of a power of the shifting of those dynamics that caused a lot of this to become such a common practice in the industry to begin with, I think that we have a much more likely chance industry-wise of there being a big change and a lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get, it's again, to quote Sarah Silverman from her piece this week, it's like getting tumors out, and it's going to hurt, but it's going to be healthier. And if you can really get everything out at the root and scoop it out and gut it, then you can piece it back together and it can grow healthy again.
Yeah, it's going to be all about how Hollywood rebuilds. And now that we're coming up on a award season, it'll be interesting to see. They always do those round tables with all the fancy actors and stuff. And I will be really curious to see how those actors who have been deemed sort of leaders, if you're sitting at a Vanity Fair or whatever variety round table, how they choose to set the tone for the conversation and the sort of reform that they preach, because that's really, I mean, Hollywood has like leaders, people you look to, where it's like, oh, like Meryl Streep said this, like it bears more weight, unfortunately, than if like, I'm trying to think who's like
at this point there is their Vanity Fair or Variety, if they wanted to, could have an accused rapist roundtable. That's how many names are coming out.
Oh my god, it's such a mess, Jay.
It's such a mess.
Such a mess.
Keep talking about it. Spread these stories.
Yeah.
Keep them alive. And the more we do to get rid of child abuse in the industry and sexual abuse in the industry, the less likely that it's going to continue happening in the future. And as we've just learned with Corey Feldman, hey, maybe we won't have weird, terrible EDM DJs anymore. We can be the generation that stops the chain smokers, guys. You can do it.
I believe in us.
Let's go ahead and start. Let's get things into why you're really here, Grace.
Why I'm really here. An intervention.
Grace Baldridge hates a Cinderella story.
I hate it. I don't like it, Jay.
Oh my! This is probably. I mean, we cover the movie called Dragon Blade on this podcast. This is definitely one of the most obscure movies that we've had covered on this podcast. For those of you who don't remember a Cinderella story, and why would you? It's a 2004 American teen romantic comedy starring Hilary Duff, One Tree Hill's Chad Michael Murray, Jennifer Coolidge, and Regina King.
Regina King!
A modernization of the classic Cinderella folklore. The film's plot revolves around two internet pen pals who plan to meet in person at their high school's Halloween dance. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Grace.
Look, if I could just begin by saying that I am the demographic that loves these movies. I love teen rom-coms. I watched She's All That last night. I love this type of movie. Feel good, sort of like brain candy type movies. It's dumb, it's stupid, it's romantic, it's sweet. Lizzie has described this movie before as cozy. My fiance, she loves this movie. I hate it. And I think that the reason why is in part because I wasn't raised in the United States. So that sort of nostalgia that people feel today when they watch it about like a football game and these dances. Well, we had dances and stuff, but no dances look like how they do in movies. And just sort of like the diner that she works at, like this isn't nostalgic for me. The San Fernando Valley, not nostalgic for me. So that's one. Two, what I really, the bone that I have with this movie is that there's this guy, Chad Michael Murray, he's a love interest. He's this cool high school jock. And his name is Austin Ames. Like, what a cool ass name, right? And he has a girlfriend that is popular and friends that I guess are popular as well. And they are all incredibly mean to everyone, especially Hilary Duff in this movie. Really, Jay, like needlessly cruel. And Chad Michael Murray, at no point, only at the very end of the movie does he stand up for her. But the problem is that there's this pep rally that they have in the movie. There's this pep rally, and the two wicked stepsisters, because again, it models off of a Cinderella story, reveal that Hilary Duff is the Cinderella. And they're like, isn't that crazy because she's poor? Like, it's crazy that this guy could ever fall for her. She's poor. And the whole school and teachers and parents that were there at this pep rally laugh at Hilary Duff, who has been singled out.
Teachers laugh at her?
Everyone in the school is there, and they all laugh at her. And someone, like a guidance counselor, had to have approved this skit that they put on. And everyone just like makes a huge laugh at this sweet girl who seems incredibly nice and who is basically a fucking orphan, and like we're laughing at her anyway. So, and then Chad Michael Murray doesn't stand up for her, even though it's revealed that like he has been corresponding with her. They're sort of pen pals because they both love Princeton, and they met in a chat room or something, and they're corresponding. And then Hilary Duff gets mad at him in the movie for not standing up to her when she was like called out and singled out and made fun of at this pep rally. But that totally neglects the fact that he hasn't stood up to her, to anyone who has been cruel to her in front of him throughout the movie. They call her diner girl. They laugh at her because she's poor. Like, they literally will, his friends are so mean to her. He never says a word. I asked Lizzie about this because she loves this movie. I said, how can you stand by this pairing that they're setting them up?
Why does your fiancé love this movie?
Yeah, like I was like, how can you stand by the fact that they set her up with this guy that is spineless and obvious and complicit in her bullying? And she's like, well, because they try and make it seem like that he's really in his own head because he has a lot going on, and he is too cool. Like, he's trying to be too cool, like he can't, but he's trying to be someone that he's not. And I'm like, then there's got to be another way of showing that than making this guy just. He's just complicit in her bullying, and it's just so mean. I know that a lot of these teen movies, they can be sort of cruel, and of course I love the kind of, because it's pre a certain time, they can make homophobic jokes. Like at one point in time, he's messaging her and he's like, you better not be a dude, right? Because if you're a dude, I'll punch you, something like that. And she's like, ha, I'm not a dude, because like, yo, if I was talking to a dude, that would make me gay. Like, I'd punch you. I'd be violent if I thought I was gay. Like, it's like, so stuff like that I can sort of overlook because of the time period. Like, it's not good, but whatever. Right. That's where we were at as a country.
Yeah, gay panic is ripe for comedy in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, like that's in a Hilary Duff movie.
In a Chad Michael Murray movie.
It's the fact that he doesn't stand up for her ever, and that she's still, like, he's never held accountable for that, except for once, kind of. I don't like, it just makes me so sad. I think it's also because the movie does a very good job of establishing how sad her life is, in the sense that, like, her mom is dead, her dad dies, she is sent to live in this, like, awful, unkept attic in this house, and then you have Jennifer Coolidge, who really is amazing. Like,
Jennifer Coolidge is a fantastic actress, always great,
just wonderful in this movie, wonderful in everything that she's been in, so funny, but so mean. She violates child labor laws, which they sort of address at the end, because Hilary Duff is made to work for hours and hours a day at her father's diner. She is, they hide her, they make a fake rejection letter from Princeton, even though she has been accepted. They hide it from her so that she thinks she's just doomed to work at a diner all day. She's told that she's ugly, that she's not very smart. So she, like, you really become very sympathetic towards this girl. You want her to find the right person. And I was so disappointed watching it. I guess I probably watched it for the first time a couple of years ago. So I was like too old to really buy into this hype, I guess, or to buy into the fantasy. I was so disappointed with who they set her up with. I was like, this girl deserves a fucking prince. Like, this is not, she deserves so much better than what they set her up with. And I felt bad about it. It just makes me sad. The movie makes me sad.
This movie is set in Los Angeles, which
yeah.
It sounds to me like this is a movie that would deter anybody from being in Los Angeles at all. Because I think it really epitomizes how shallow and terrible people in Los Angeles are.
That's definitely something that they play off of. Like, it's in the valley, it's valley girls, and people are really shallow here, and they're all really wealthy, but they don't do it in this sort of charming yet self-effacing way that we see in Clueless. It's just I don't know what it is about this movie, Jay, but it makes me so sad for this girl's life. And I know it's Hilary Duff and she's fine, but if you take it away and you put in an unknown actress, this is it's sad. It's so sad. And just the way that the whole school makes fun of her.
Here's a part, I'm reading the Wikipedia page for this movie right now,
yeah.
and this part really stands out to me. So, and this is referencing that skit you were talking about at the pep rally. During a pep rally, they and the other cheerleaders humiliate Sam in front of the entire school and expose her identity. Austin, hurt by Sam's secrecy, does not step up to defend her and leaves the pep rally in tears. But, sorry, before this, that was a part I just felt like reading, and I didn't actually have the part that I wanted to read in it.
Well, no, I think that's actually a really good part that you read. If I could just comment briefly.
Please comment.
Is that they say that, so they're even defending him in the Wikipedia article. They have these fans of these people
hurt by Sam's secrecy?
That's what you guys were both secret to each other.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's the thing. Do you know why she hid her identity from Austin in the first place by her little mask?
This is the part that really, really gets to me. Is they have this is the line that I actually wanted to read. Sam is reluctant to reveal her identity to Austin, feeling that he will not accept her due to her being ordinary and Austin being popular. First of all, if there's any realm when 2014 era Hilary Duff can be classified as ordinary. Sorry, 2004.
2004, Hilary Duff was at the top of her game.
Hilary Duff was killing the game.
Her, Lindsay Lohan, Aaron Carter, stars.
Yep.
Like, they were the stars.
100%. No one is going to knock them down. This is egregious that they wrote in a plot line to Hilary Duff being insecure about her looks.
And also that he's so mad that she was an imposter. He wasn't getting catfished. She was who she said she was, which she does eventually say in, like, this watershed locker room moment scene. She was who she says she was. She was just hiding her identity because he and his friends were a dick. And here's the kicker too, is that he and his friends were dicks to her when she didn't have her mask on, when she was just working at a diner. They're so rude to her. And then she puts a mask on and a nice dress from Regina King, who also is great in this movie, and does the most that she can with the limited role she's been given. And then he's all of a sudden nice to her, kind of. But then the very, like, there's another scene later in the movie after he's already seen her with the mask on. So he's seen her with the mask on. He's like in love with her. I gotta find Cinderella. They're like trying out the cell phone. They line up a whole bunch of girls that audition to be his Cinderella because he's like got a chocolate penis. Like, I have no idea why all these girls love him so much. In any case, then when he sees her again at the diner after like being in love with her, the only thing that she doesn't have is the mask. He still is so dismissive, and like he's not rude to her, but he just doesn't see her. She literally says, "Maybe you saw her, like you see her, but you haven't, or what? Maybe you like what's the
maybe you see her, but you don't see her."
Yeah, it's something. It's something like that. Maybe you were looking, but maybe you were looking, but you weren't seeing. Something like that is.
Oh my god.
Yeah, is the distinction that she makes. But I'm like, Hillary.
I bet you the writer was so proud when they thought of that line of dialogue too, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, this is the thesis of this whole movie. I got it."
It's written by Lee Dunlap.
You know, I was looking at the timeline of this movie because I feel like this is a really poignant time period that this movie was released in, because there's sort of a where are they now going on of both of the top stars in this movie. Hilary Duff's career is happening, sort of.
I mean, she's a mom.
And Chad Michael Murray is nowhere to be found, basically, in pop culture anymore.
It's funny that we're doing this podcast today because Ashley Hamilton posted a tweet today that I thought was so funny. And it was something about, I don't have it pulled up, but it was something about her like doing research, and it was just all the different Chad Michael Murray fan accounts, and you just can't tell which one is the real Chad Michael Murray.
Did you? God, yeah. What a weird time we live in that people are creating fan accounts for stars from television shows that have been off the air for years.
Fan accounts, but posing as the real. That's the weirdest thing to me.
Do you have one of those yet? I know you have a fan account, but I don't think you have one of someone pretending to be you yet. No, I just have Instagram accounts where people post pictures of you and like hearts next to your faces.
I have, yeah.
Here's the other thing that I think is the most interesting factor to consider when looking at the impact, I guess, of a Cinderella story.
The sweeping impact of a Cinderella story.
So Cinderella story came out in summer of 2004. Came out, official release was July 10th. Yeah. It was when it premiered. July 16th was when it went to wide release. Earlier that year, in April, was when Mean Girls premiered. Now, Mean Girls premiered on April 30th, 2004. Now, think about this. If Mean Girls had just come out a little bit later in the year, I feel like people's reaction to this movie would be totally different. It would be one of those movies that is forgotten after the fact instead of critically derided before the fact.
Huh.
Because Mean Girls blew everybody's minds as far as being a really relevant comedy, starring another one of those triumvirate of stars that we were talking about, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan in her prime. Mm-hmm. And exposing, doing essentially what Clueless had done already.
Yeah, it was
the high school movie.
You had Heathers, and then you had Clueless, and then you had Mean Girls, and there's a comedy like that for every generation. You go John Hughes, and then you go his Breakfast Club and 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink, and then you got Heathers, and then you got Clueless, and then Mean Girls is the high school movie for the 2000s. I would say beyond a doubt. Now, Cinderella story, I think, was very clearly trying to do that. But in a year when Mean Girls comes out, it doesn't stand a chance. That's true. I didn't know that was the same year that Mean Girls came out. Although something similar to those movies have in common is that they both resulted in a number of different sequels that were straight to TV that were all very bad, except one of them had Selena Gomez in it. And
a Cinderella story has sequels?
A Cinderella story has 3, maybe 4 straight to DVD.
Oh my God.
There's one with Selena Gomez, one with Lucy Hale, and then there's another one that's called another Cinderella story, If the Shoe Fits.
Here we are. Sequels page. The film was followed by 3 direct-to-video sequels.
Yes!
Another Cinderella story in 2008. A Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song in 2011, and a Cinderella Story, If the Shoe Fits, in 2016. This was last year.
Look, this is the franchise that keeps on giving.
Oh my God.
Mean Girls, if I can ever come back on this podcast, the Mean Girls 2 is another one that's just awful.
I like Spring Breakers too. Something that's not related to the original movie at all.
Yep.
Just capitalizing on the name.
Awful.
Here's I think this is a very interesting thing that we have to bring up regarding the Cinderella Story sequels. They all contain musical and dance themes.
Yeah.
They're all movie musicals.
Well, because it's straight to DV or straight to TV or like a TV release movies or whatever they're called. And those you need to have, it's a younger audience that will tune in, so you need to like keep them entertained. I mean, I'm just totally speculating, but I think that's why you have like High School Musical that does well, like Lemonade Mouth, Camp Rock, all those Disney franchises, because you have to have like a musical component where people can rest their brains.
And listen to this casting for these other Cinderella Story franchise movies. This is not bad casting necessarily.
I would say amazing casting.
Selena Gomez as the Cinderella girl and Jane Lynch as the evil stepmother.
And
that's great.
That one also, I'm a huge Selena Gomez fan. I'm biased. That one, there are some damn good acting scenes. Selena Gomez cut her teeth in that movie as an actor.
Lucy Hale in A Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song. Lucy Hale and Missy Pyle as the Cinderella and mom. Another great pairing. Missy Pyle is a secret all-star.
They keep going.
And then, finally, this one, Sophia Carson. I have no idea who the fuck Sophia Carson is.
No idea.
Evil stepmother, Jennifer fucking Tilly.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Jennifer
insane.
Tilly, the bride of Chucky herself, is the evil stepmother. That's great casting. Why are these movies so bad?
I think they just sort of have their hands tied in the sense that it's a very traditional story, and breaking the mold from that, fairy tale elicits a more often than not cringy response, because we're so conditioned to know that these are fairy tales and it's crazy. And then just working with these high school stereotypes and archetypes can be it's a hard thing to do well. Like Mean Girls did it exceptionally, and that's why we remember Mean Girls. But A Cinderella Story is just one of a number of forgettable teen movies that probably came out that year. It's just this one had bigger names attached to it. I think that the writing is very tricky to get a teen movie, especially when you're confined to a Cinderella story. It's hard to do well.
One final question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think that this movie could have done, besides not come out the same year as Mean Girls? Is there anything you think that this movie could have done differently to raise it in your mind?
Yes, 100%.
What could it have done?
I already know. She does not end up with this guy. If they had introduced a side character, they actually did have
this fucking dopey quarterback who can't stick up for her, who apparently doesn't know what a woman's body looks like and can't discern, and who has fucking face blindness and can't see what anyone looks like without a mask.
So she has this other friend.
I can't imagine what he thought Eyes Wide Shut was like, this character in this movie. How can he understand how anybody's making sense in this movie?
No, it's lost on him. She has his other best friend in the movie. His name is Carter, and they are supposedly old school friends, but he's one of those rom-com characters that doesn't have a working penis, in the sense that, like, for whatever reason, they're just like, he is not dateable for her. He's a nice guy. From what we know, he's straight. He ends up with a girl at the end of the movie. She should have ended up with him. It's sort of like Ducky in Pretty in Pink.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, he was the supportive best friend, and for whatever reason, she chooses this guy that is complicit in her abuse from these high school kids, these cruel kids. And to me, he just doesn't give a good enough showing that he is interested in being with her. I would have loved this movie. Loved it if she had done a hard left turn in the final scene and been like, what? It's too late. You're a loser, and wound up with her kind of quirky friend Carter.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you're writing a rom-com for teens right now, make sure that your main character doesn't end up with the fucking idiot jock.
Yes.
Put him with the quirky weirdo.
Amen.
Let them wear matching cardigans.
Yeah. Let them wear matching masks.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And don't set anything in the world of AOL Instant Messenger ever again.
No.
We can move past that, I think.
We don't need that.
Grace, it has been a real pleasure having you on today.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Where can our listeners find your work?
You can find me at YouTube. You can go to Pop Trigger, and I cover entertainment news there. And you can also search for my show on YouTube, Murder with Friends, which is where I bring on a friend. We talk about murder, and Jay has been one of those friends.
Yep.
His episodes are among my favorite.
I've been on, 3 episodes so far?
3 episodes, soon to be 4.
Yep, I've got another one coming out about talking paranormal murder type stories. I've also covered the Columbine Massacre. I've covered the John Wayne Gacy killings and the Candyman murderer, Dean Corll.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And then social media.
Yeah, just at Grace Baldridge and Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. You can add me on Facebook if you want. I don't go on there very often. Why not? We're all friends.
You can catch me on the internet at Diet J and Twitter and Instagram, jlightcomedy.com for show dates. I don't really have a whole lot coming up this week because of Thanksgiving, and there's not really a whole lot of shows going on. I am performing this Wednesday, if you're around Los Angeles, at the Digest and the Deconstruction at the Pack Theater, and on tomorrow at Potluck, or I guess today. This episode's going to be coming out on Monday, so today at Potluck at the Comedy Store. So come by and check those out. And please leave a rating, a review on iTunes, subscribe, spread the word. We're coming in hot. We got more podcasts coming down the pipeline. We're going through for the rest of the year. And I'm very excited to hate on more movies with you guys. Grace, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
This has been Blockbusting. Guys, go see something good for a change.